it's John from Heroes and Legends, and the Day of the Dragon continues. We got more Commander 2017 reveals to talk about. Earlier today we did a video, we covered a lot of dragons and some cats, but since then, a lot more previews have happened. So most of these cards, if not all of them, appear to be from the Dragon deck, and I figured instead of doing a long video tomorrow, we'll just do a shorter video and start covering some of these previews this evening. Now, quickly before we get started, fast reminder, if you check out the description below, a couple ways to support us, one of which is the Amazon affiliate store. If you make any purchases there, a small percentage will come back to the channel, and you'll also find a link separated out there for Commander 2017 decks. And secondly, the Patreon page is also linked in that same area. With that out of the way, let's get into the cards. The first couple cards we're going to look at today have been previously leaked. We talked about them a couple months back in a video, but it's been a while, so we'll go over them again. Taigam Ojitai Master is the first one. A blue, a white, and 2 legendary creature, human monk 3/4. Instant sorcery and dragon spells you control can be countered by spells or abilities. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, if this attacked this turn, that spell gains rebound. So that second ability is cool. Like, I like giving my spells rebound. That can actually be pretty sweet. By the time you get to the mid game though, you might have a hard time finding a good line of attack for this card. Now you could still attack into something big, let the creature die and still get the rebound. It does work that way, so that's interesting. But at the same time, that doesn't feel super economical. That first ability though is really good for me. Instant sorcery and dragon spell. So obviously in the dragon deck where you're going to find this card, protecting your dragons when they come into play is pretty awesome. Preventing counter spells from hitting them, that's great. Now the instant and sorcery piece also makes me think about what I could do with this card beyond that dragon deck. In a lot of the more spiky competitive decks right now, in especially 1v1 Commander, I think would like to have something like this. They usually run a lot of instants and sorceries. I'm thinking of things like the Grand Arbiter deck, for example. Could be kind of sweet there, so this is definitely a card to watch. Ramos Dragon Engine. Now, this is the second card that we've talked about in the past due to leaks, but this one is also quite sweet. It costs 6. It's a legendary artifact creature dragon, 4/4 flying. Whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this for each of that spell's colors. Remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos. Add 2 of each color to your mana pool. Activate this ability only once each turn. This card is crazy. I mean, first off, 6 is very reasonable considering you're getting yourself a 4/4 flyer that relatively easily could get bigger quicker. By the time you're ready to attack with it, the card could be quite large if you just play even like a double color spell on your next turn or something like that. And beyond that, you can do some crazy things with cards like Doubling Season, right? Could you imagine playing this with Doubling Season? That would be super sweet. And you get the counters on really fast, and then you either have a big old flyer to just attack people with, or you could remove some counters and cast something insane like Progenitus or something if you wanted to. So this card is pretty nuts. I really like it a lot. Also, keep in mind, this could be your commander, because even though it is technically a colorless card, it has the 5 mana symbols on it, giving it 5 color mana identity for commander purposes. So this could be a 5-color commander. You could switch this out in your dragon deck and make it your commander if you'd like to. And beyond that, still an awesome card, and I could see it getting play really outside of this deck into a number of different builds, especially some of the +1/+1 counters matters decks that we've seen in Commander over the past year or so. This could fit right into one of those as well. Fortunate Few. 2 white and 3, it's a sorcery. Choose a non-land permanent you don't control, and then each other player chooses a non-land permanent he or she doesn't control that hasn't been chosen this way. Destroy all other non-land permanents. And I love the flavor text. Is it over? So here's the deal with this card. Yes, it will deal with the problem that you want it to deal with. However, there's going to be repercussions. You're going to lose something, maybe more than something. You might even lose more than one thing, perhaps. So there's high variance behind this card. It's a fun political card, though. It's a fun multiplayer card. I love the design. I love that it's here. If you're more of a spiky player, maybe this is one of those cards you pull out, you upgrade it with some removal that's more consistent or something like that. But if you're here to have fun and you just want to play these out of the box and have a good time, this card will definitely be fun. Boneyard Scourge. 2 black and 2. It's a zombie dragon flying 4/3. Whenever a dragon you control dies while this is in your graveyard, you may pay a black and 1. If you do, you return this from the graveyard to the battlefield. So a reoccurring dragon that can be quite persistent in this dragon deck, perhaps. And even though it's a forecasting cost 4/3 flyer that's kind of nice. It feels small in this dragon deck from everything we've seen, but you know what? It's still good enough. And the fact that it can come back really quite easily over the course of the game, probably a number of times you can activate that ability, it just becomes really hard for your opponents to deal with consistently. They'll have to find an exile spell or something like that, or get it out of the graveyard, perhaps when it's in the graveyard with some graveyard hate. But regardless, just a regular removal spell isn't going to keep this thing down for long. I kind of wish it had haste. Maybe that's asking a little too much for 4 mana. But overall, again, another fine inclusion for this dragon deck. Next we have a reprint. It's Crux of Fate, originally from Fate Reforged. It's 2 black and 3. It's a sorcery. You get to choose one, destroy all dragons, or destroy all non-dragon creatures. So obviously this makes a lot of sense in the dragon deck. It's basically, for the most part, a one-sided board sweep a lot of the time, and that's actually kind of awesome. Maybe not as good in the mirror match if someone else also buys the dragon deck, but overall, I mean, just a great removal spell. And it hasn't been too long since Fate Reforged. It's been about 2.5 years or so since that set came out, and this card hasn't been reprinted until now, but it's a sweet card. It's a good inclusion. Not an expensive card necessarily. You can usually pick these up for $1 or $2 in the secondary market currently, but just kind of nice to have for the deck, I think. Scourge of Belkis. This is another reprint from Magic 2014, actually. 3 red and 2. It's a dragon 4/4 flying, and when this or another dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control, and you can pay a red, and it will get +1/+0 till end of turn. So it has that fire-breathing ability as well. I'm not really worried about the 3-on color in this dragon deck. It's going to have no problems casting whatever colors you need, I don't think. We're going to look at some cards that help its color fixing in just a few moments. Overall, just another nice inclusion. Another card that isn't super expensive. These are like $3-4 if you're trying to pick one of the Magic 2014 copies up, but it hasn't been reprinted till now. So again, it's nice to see the card. Good inclusion, totally makes sense in the dragon deck. Fractured Identity. This will be in the dragon deck as well because it is the only one of the 4 that can run Azorius cards. This is a blue, a white, and 3 sorcery. Exile target non-land permanent. Each player other than its controller creates a token that's a copy of it. Okay, so this is interesting. 1v1 commander, this seems really awesome because you're basically exiling whatever you don't want your opponent to have and then giving yourself a copy of it. It's like stealing it. That could be a big swing at times. And these type of effects can be very powerful even for 5 mana. So I like the card in that situation. In a multiplayer game, it becomes a high variance card. I mean, you can still get rid of the problem you want to get rid of, take it out of the hands of the person you want to take it out of the hands of, but then it goes into your hand, but also other players' hands potentially, which maybe that's good for you, maybe that's bad for you, just depends on the situation. And again, it leads to some high variance plays. Now, if you're not a high variance risk taker, well, then maybe you want to take this out and get something that's a little more consistent, like a control magic type card instead, right? But if you want to have some fun out of the box, I think this will be a fun card. You can always hang on to it till you get down to the last player or two. The card becomes more powerful as the game goes on. One last thing I want to mention about this card, if you're one of those players that likes to think outside the box, there are some other crazy combos you could do with this. Imagine casting, say, Phage the Untouchable, and then playing this on your Phage, exiling the target non-land permanent, and then each player other than its controller, that would be you, creates a token that's a copy of it. That seems pretty mean, but you can probably think of other combos that go along those lines as well, giving your opponents things that could really be detrimental to them. Phage, making them lose the game, is probably the worst one I could come up with anyway. Alright, another reprint with Crucible of the Spirit Dragon, another card from Fate Reforged. Simply a land's going to help you cast these crazy dragons for the multiple colors. There's not too much to say about it. You can tap it for colorless mana, or you can pay 1 and tap to put a storage counter on it. And then when you want to, you can tap, remove X storage counters from this, and you'll add X mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool, but spend this mana only to cast dragon spells or activate abilities of dragons. And here's another one basically doing the same thing. This is Haven of the Spirit Dragon from Dragons of Tarkir. Again, both these cards, not very expensive cards. This one will run you about $1, maybe sometimes a little more than $1. The other one, definitely under $1. But this card has the same purpose. Tap for a colorless mana, or else you can tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, but spend it only to cast dragon creature spells. Pay 2, tap and sacrifice, return target dragon card, or Ugin Planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. So I don't think we're going to be seeing Ugin in the pre-packaged deck, but maybe an interesting upgrade if you have one on hand that you want to throw in there. It could be cool. But overall, this is here just to help you cast these multicolored dragons. With that being said, those are the cards for this afternoon, and we'll be back tomorrow over the course of the next few hours. I'm sure we're going to see more cards. Don't know if tomorrow is going to be Wizard Day or Vampire Day. I guess we'll find out tomorrow morning, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of both of those decks, actually. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.